Welcome. This is Alyson Stanfield with Art Biz Success, and I'm so happy that you're here with me. I have Cynthia on with me, Cynthia Morris. Hey, Cynthia.
Oh,
Cynthia is, well, I'll talk more about that in a minute, but let's talk about why we're here. So, Cynthia and I are here because I asked her here. Tomorrow, I'm publishing a post about to help you write your artist statement. And I'm also, because it's so important, I'm also publishing a podcast with it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a journaling process that you can use that will contribute to your artist statement or your bio or your exhibition labels or any other stories that will help you to promote your art. We're going to talk about your journaling practice. We're going to talk about our journaling practices. We're going to give you a peek at our journals. Cynthia, do you have your journal nearby?
do I?
Dude, which one, right? And we're going to talk about how you can deepen this journaling practice for yourself and for your connection with your art. So, as a quick introduction, I'm Alyson Stanfield with Art Biz Success. I'm the host of the Art Biz podcast, the author of I'd Rather Be in the Studio, the Artist's No Excuse Guide to Self-Promotion, the longest title in the world. And then I also am the creator of the online marketing course and business foundational course program called the Art Career Success System. And Cynthia Morris is the founder of Original Impulse. She is the host of Stumbling Toward Genius, which is a genius podcast for creatives. And then she's the author of numerous books, and her most recent one is The Busy Woman's Guide to Writing a World-Changing Book. She is also the creator of The Devoted Writer, which is an online workshop that you're going to hear more about, I'm sure. And the reason I asked Cynthia here, well, she's not just a good friend. You've probably seen her on Facebook Lives with me before. She's not just a good friend. She and I also used to collaborate. Cynthia, I looked it up. I think 2009 was when we started Blog Triage, where we helped artists. You helped them with the writing part, and I helped them with the technical behind the scenes stuff for their blogs. So we've been helping artists with their writing for a long time. And Cynthia, I'm so happy that you're here with me for this.
I'm happy to be here, and I want to let people know how we met. We met in Denver back in 2005 or something like that,
Yeah.
teaching a class about how to get started writing, and you were there. And
I was there. And I was there with another friend, and I knew right then that I wanted to be part of your life. And then I hired you a few years later to help me finish the first edition of my book. Honestly, it would never have got finished without your help. So,
yeah, and I'm glad you did, because it's a great book. It's super helpful, and it's changed the world. So thank you for writing it.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk about this because I wanted to talk about journaling. It's not a favorite word of Cynthia's, but I know that so many of my artist clients are averse to the word writing. They don't feel like they're writers, they're creators, they're artists. And so a lot of times artists put off these important documents that they need. They put it off until someone asks them for an artist statement or a bio or this or that press release or whatever. And at that point, they're under just a ton of pressure to come up with words for describing their art, for talking about their art, for talking about their ideas. And it's really hard. I don't know about you, Cynthia. It's hard for me to come up with words under pressure. It's a process for me.
I call that the stand and deliver moment, where it's like you're kind of on the spot to like, go, say something important and real now. You're like, oh, I don't know what to say. And I kind of the feeling like the frozen, stuck, don't know what to say, when it's all in there. It's just, you haven't warmed up the channel to bring it out.
It's so hard. And that's why it's so valuable to be collecting those words all along so that they're there for us to collect, to put together, to mix and match when we need them. So that's just, it's not just your statement, it's your grant application, your exhibition proposals, all that stuff you're going to need language for.
And that's the benefit of having a practice that you've been building some strength, some muscles, these are the wrong words, but just building some aptitude with getting your words out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about our journaling practices. What's yours like, Cynthia? Actually, what did I do with my journals? They're over here. Hang on. I had to reconfigure some things and I left them over there. So let's talk about yours.
Well, I've been writing forever. I was just coaching a client. He asked me, have I been writing for forever? And I do. I've been writing since I was a kid. I always wanted to be a writer. And so part of that has been just having a journaling practice, which to me, a journaling practice or writing practice is something that is more, it's like foundationally about just having a relationship with yourself. Who am I? What's in there? How do I make sense of my world? And how do I make decisions? So it's, to me, initially a way to be in contact with what's in here. What I've seen is that the thoughts that we have in our mind are one thing, but when we write, it becomes something totally different. And
yes,
it feels miraculous because the simple act of a pen and a notebook or keyboard engages something different that allows us to go further, bring clarity.
But only if we stick with it, right? Like it never comes out the first time, the first sentence. Like you just have to keep writing.
It's like brainstorming, where they say if you're brainstorming, you don't brainstorm 10 ideas, you brainstorm 50 because the good ones come later. And one of my students just was saying this morning in our online writing salon that she didn't want to write. She didn't feel like it. She was doing the 15 minutes. She still had 3 minutes left to go. And she just kept with it and kept with it. And then she said, boom, the golden nuggets came.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insight. I was like, yes, that's what I want. So you're right. So going for those thoughts that are a little deeper, maybe a little further out from shore that you can pull in and learn from and grow from.
Yeah, it's so valuable. And you've probably been a lot more consistent with your journaling practice than I have. I know that I picked mine back up in full transparency. I picked it back up last fall and kind of just decided I was going to have, that's what the first thing I was going to do in the morning, not in a formal, like the artist's way, morning pages kind of thing. I just wanted to sit down with a pen and paper, which I know we're going to talk about. And things just, things just start coming out. And sometimes I have a prompt, like I know what I'm going to write about that day, and sometimes not. For instance, yet when we were trying to figure out what I knew I wanted to talk about writing, but didn't really know what aspect of writing I wanted to talk about on this Facebook Live. And I got out my journal and I wrote, the night before I wrote a prompt, what could it be? What could this be? And then I just kept writing. And then I had this aha moment, like 3/4 of the way down the page. This is like all mumbo jumbo stuff that I don't even think we're even going to talk about, but I had to write that in order to get to this point. So, yeah.
It's a real clearing process and writing your way. I'm also an artist, and I made a deck of affirmations for writers that I illustrated. And here's one of them, and I believe this is really true. It says, answers are in your ink. So journaling as a way to find your answers if you're confused about something or don't know, how to proceed with something, answers will come to you. And you mentioned prompt, and I think that's a helpful thing to think about because often we just sit down to write and it's like, oh, I don't, You know, you're just kind of floating on the surface. A prompt is a way to point you in the direction. So I want to write about, or here's what I'm thinking about. So one thing I want to say about a journaling practice in my practice, you said I picked it back up. And I think it will vary over time. It will change, it will develop, it will grow. So any kind of notion that it has to be the same thing all the time, that it has to look a certain way it's a dynamic thing, as is our lives. And so
That's why we call this an imperfect journaling practice for
right.
artists. And I gave it a title because the more I wrote about it, the more I thought, if we're real strict and we say we have to do, how many pages are morning pages? 5 pages?
3.
3 pages are the morning pages. But if you feel like you have to do something, there's all kinds of resistance that comes up with that.
Well, especially with creative people, we often rebel against rules. So just in case anybody watching doesn't know, Alyson's referring to the morning pages. That's The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And one of the practices that she advocates in that is morning pages, where you write 3 pages, kind of brain dump, whatever comes out. And she was very clear, it has to be in the morning, it has to be 3 pages. And I don't think it has to be in the morning. So, because that just eliminates a lot of people who say, I can't do morning. So
can't function until after my 4th cup of coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to adapt. Anything we say, my big thing is what I'm here to do in my work is help people find their own way. As a coach, my job is not to give you a prescription and tell you what to write or how to write, but help you to figure out what works for you. So in our conversation today, you might get an idea. You might go, that sounds good. I'm going to tweak that. Or I don't like that part. I'm going to do it this way. That's exactly what I want for everybody to find their own way with maybe a few pointers from us.
Well, let's talk about the type of journal that we're talking about. Like when we talk about like really just getting it out of our heads and onto the paper, what do you use?
You mean the actual notebook?
The actual physical notebook. We are talking about notebooks rather than a computer.
I use a notebook because the journaling process is an intimate thing for me. I do a lot of writing on the computer, and the journaling is more my own thing. I don't have the same. I use a lot of different ones, but generally I want one that's about this size that I can take with me. I also this is the Moleskine soft cover, and I like it with a dot grid instead of people have lined pages, unlined, or dot grid. So this one is Moleskine. This is Lecturum, which I'm really loving. And then I recently used this Go-To notebook. I don't know why I love it so much. I'm a very tactile person, so the texture of this was great. The cut corners appealed to me. I don't know why, but I want to talk about this one later. And then some people like a journal that has maybe some images on it. This one is Jill Bliss. She's an artist up in Washington State, and I just love her. I've got a lot of her notebooks like this. The size is great, the flexibility of it, and the art.
It's beautiful. So those notebooks that you're sharing right there, are you using them all for the same purpose, or does each one have a different purpose?
Well, these are ones from the past. So the only one I'm using now is this one.
Well, so in the past, are they similar purposes or?
Yeah. This one, no. So this is my artist kind of art business notebook. These ones. And what that is notes and ideas about what I'm doing. And this is much more dynamic than there's a chart. There are mind maps. This is not just writing. These are notes. Okay. A Periscope show. Remember Periscope?
I remember Periscope. That is old.
2016. Notes from and drawings. And I love these notebooks that have a lot of dynamism and variety. So that's more just for how am I managing my art? How am I managing the art business? And this is just personal journaling, writing daily
stuff. Yeah. So I'm kind of with you. I like the size, or this is a little bit smaller, or this size.
A little higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to use moleskins, as you know, and just that exact same size, but it's too wide for me for some reason. I for some reason I like that it not quite that wide, but it has to be wide enough that I can get my thoughts in. This is my like, daily dump, and so is that one. I want to show you a couple of other things. I have
And while
this.
I just want to say, like, it has to fit into your life, right? Like,
It
whatever
has to fit into your life.
I want to be able to take it with me, it has to fit into my
Although
bag.
I will say I've seen you with some really big notebooks, journals around. Yeah. No, and yes,
This was
and
too big. This was way too big and
yeah.
heavy, but I used it and it was great. But yeah.
This notebook, Mary Martin, the artist Mary Martin gave this to me, and
Beautiful.
I am using this for it's got handmade paper on it. It's beautiful, and it's got medium on top, so it's really sturdy. But I am
Mm.
using this to collect stories about my parents,
Oh.
and I just keep it on because my mom won't tell me what she wants at her funeral or obituary, so I'm keeping this. So there's that. And then I want to share this one as well because I freaking love this notebook. It's kind of weird. My husband last year did 400 miles on the Colorado Trail, but I had to organize everything behind the scenes and meet him and everything. And I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to do that. So I found this notebook that has magnetic pages.
Oh, I remember you told me about that.
I'm in love with this. I only used it for his thing because we had a party, and so that was in the front of the notebook at the first, but then the party was over, so I moved those pages to the back of the notebook, and
Wow.
it's got a lot of other stuff in it now too. It's called Reconnect, and it's Reconnect with a K. Reconnect with a K. I got it at the Denver Art Museum, but I would totally use this for organizing an event that needed a bunch of pages, and I'm just crazy about that. So that's another way to. And then I journaled about while he was on the trail. I journaled what was happening to him at the time. So it's a notebook, but it's also a journal at the same time. And I tend to like having one journal at a time, journal/notebook at a time. I have my planner and I put notes in there, but my thoughts and ideas and stuff, I just like having one thing. So
This is so funny. I mean, there's notebooks all around. I don't have one notebook at a time. I use the hardcover moleskin to run my business and do my to-do list. And then I've got the personal journal. I have my sketchbook, which I'm, painting in. And then this is one of my favorite new journals. It's a garden journal.
yeah,
I'm keeping track of my garden over the years, and it's really helpful because you forget.
it's super nice to remember the plants' names because you forget between summer and the next spring.
And when you planted and how it worked out. So there's lots of ways to keep a journal. The personal journaling, I think we're mainly here to look at is just how to develop a facility and an ease with taking your thoughts from your head and putting them into a written form so that when the time comes to do your artist statement or write a difficult email or all of that, you aren't starting from zero.
Right. And I think you and I both wanted to talk about the importance of recognizing that the journal isn't sacred, that it's not. So a very dear friend of mine gave me this beautiful leather journal
Ooh.
it's gorgeous. It has my initials on it and it has this gorgeous string. And I ended up giving it to the same brand to a couple of high school students. It's Jenny Bick is her name, Jenni. It's gorgeous. It's also totally empty because it's too beautiful to write in.
Well, yeah, I guess my big question is, what is the paper like? Does the paper
It's gorgeous. It's perfect. But here's the other thing. Yeah, here's the thing. It has to lay flat, doesn't it?
well, you have again, like it has to fit into your life. You have to be able to actually use it.
Just
That's
doesn't lay flat.
that's more of a beautiful object than a useful object.
Tell them what you did with your leather bound journal?
So I had a couple and they were thick, like fat and gorgeous, like a work of art, and sat there on the shelf forever. And I think I was moving, or I don't know, but I just saw it and I was like, well, the paper in there is really nice. I cut the paper out and I used the paper and I chucked the leather thing into the box to go to the thrift store in case somebody else wanted to use it for something else. Because, the preciousness of something, and if it's not being used for what it's used for, then it's just as Steve would call, my husband would call it, a dust collector.
A dust collector. Absolutely. I will do something with this someday. It is lovely, but it's not a daily journal. I can't use it for that. So, yeah. And I used to use spiral notebooks, and now I can't stand having spiral because if I want to take it with me, it attaches to everything.
Yep.
It hooks in everything. So I don't like anything with a spiral on it.
So the point being, whatever works for you, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be nice. I like to like the things I have. I want to love the objects. So it makes it easier to use. If you like it, if it works for you, it's going to be easier to spend time with. So whatever, I know a lot of people are just composition notebooks, simple, cheap, easy, awesome.
Yeah. So, and the composition notebooks, again, they're too wide for me. They're not the right size, or they're too long. There's something about them that isn't the right size for me. So we're talking about writing in your handwriting on a notebook, if you're able. And I know some people have arthritis. Some people have lost their use of their hands for one reason or another. And so if you're able, we encourage that. I was telling Cynthia before, when we started talking about this, how I was brainstorming about this, what we were going to do on this in my journal. And then I went to the computer to put down the thoughts for her. And I instantly noticed this difference in like when I got to the computer, it had to be in order. It had to be organized. The spelling had to be correct and all that stuff. And it's just a big difference going from writing to the computer or just starting on the computer.
Yeah, for me, the big difference is that sense of public or private. And there's such a greater sense of privacy and intimacy with a handwritten journal than something I'm writing that I'm going to share with the public. And a lot of us can feel very self-conscious already about doing the writing. So anything that removes the barrier to being freely expressed, privacy is one of them. So if you feel it's easier for you to feel private in the journal, that's great. There are studies about how it does facilitate a different experience. Mostly, I would want you to know, just experiment with yourself and see what works. The one thing I would encourage, back to what we said about stay with it, you're going to get some gems. Your hand might hurt. You might be like, oh, that hurt my hand. I'm not going to do that again. Well, you're building a muscle. My hand muscle has been developed. It doesn't hurt from handwriting because I've habituated myself to that. So don't be discouraged if there's a little soreness at first. You can keep going.
Good point. All right, this is your expertise. We talked about the artist's way structure and said whatever works for you is best. It doesn't have to be the artist's way, and it doesn't have to be in the morning. Maybe give us some other tips for structuring a journaling process.
Well, I use a practice called free writing. Free writing was popularized by Natalie Goldberg with her book, Writing Down the Bones. And the point and the purpose of free writing is to lose that self-consciousness and to get out of the kind of, it's a weird thing to describe, but the way I think of it is getting out of your thinking mind and into a different place. I don't know what that place is. I don't know if it's the divine, the heart, or it's the more of us, the fullness of us. So to free write, just a few guidelines. Setting a timer helps with the focus. So if you set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes or build up to that is the first thing. Using a prompt, using some sort of trigger to get you started. So I went to get my prompt stack that I did. I did 35 days of personal journaling earlier this year, ended just last month. And I wanted to get to know myself better. I wanted to ask myself some more personal questions. So I just developed a list of prompts, and then I put them on index cards, and then I would draw one at random every day. And that helped because it gave me the element of surprise. It's almost like somebody was giving me the assignment or the prompt. And then my mind was fresh on the topic. I didn't have any preconceived notions. The one day I threw the card back and did another one, I regretted it. So,
because you're like, I don't want to write about that right now.
yeah, I was like, and then it just, there was some reason that it just didn't turn out that great. So this was really helpful for me to have the prompts on index cards. You could even just have a list. So in my writing class, The Devoted Writer, I give a daily prompt, and the prompt is a photograph and a word or phrase, and then one of my ritual blessings. And they're just any random thing that just gets, triggers not the right word now because that's a different thing, sparks the imagination. And it's like, oh, okay, let me just write on that. The way I think of a prompt is it's a diving board just to get in and get past that. Oh. And then once you're in, you can go anywhere. And the other free writing guidelines are don't stop writing. So keep your hand moving. Just even if you just repeat the prompt or say, I don't know what I'm writing, or just describe what's around you. And then you go for the jugular, be honest. Don't worry about spelling, punctuation, or grammar. Often, all the time, people are saying, I can't even read what I wrote. I was like, yes, that's you're just kind of free and unself-conscious and not trying to be correct or make sure it's tidy or anything like that. And then what happens is they'll go back and read. They'll say, I don't know what I wrote. I don't even know what's there. They'll go back and read and say, wow, this is actually good, or I don't remember writing this, or wow. So kind of getting out of your mind is what free writing does, and helps you to just kind of get into a flow state, which is what we want when we're writing or creating.
Right. And you do that. You have 3 months of prompts in The Devoted Writer.
Yep.
And anyone can find out about that at originalimpulse.com and click on workshops, and you'll find Devoted Writer.
Yep. Going now, so we can put up now.
You can go now. We also use prompts in Magnetic You, and which is a different type of writing course from Cynthia's. And I mean, I'm sure that I learned about prompts from Cynthia. I've been doing them for so long, I forget. But I know Cynthia's the one that recommended Natalie Goldberg's book. So the book, again, is Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. And what I say in Magnetic You is that I want artists to become word collectors. And so that they have all these words that they can mix and match and put together. I mentioned that at the top of the broadcast. But in Cynthia's course is all about the practice and developing a habit. And I'm putting words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong. But having these prompts and having the support of the community so that you're doing this on a regular basis for 3 months, or over 3 months if they join right now, right?
Yeah. The whole purpose is just to, within a container of this workshop and writing every day, and I incentivize that. If you write every day, you can get coaching, is to learn what works for you. It's not about like, I better write every day because that's the way it's supposed to be done. It's not the point. The point is, well, now I know that writing at night is terrible for me, or I really need to have my coffee in order to write, or whatever the circumstances or your practice wants for you. That's the way to learn for yourself, by practicing and doing.
Right. And so while Cynthia's class is about that, Magnetic You is about actually producing the documents that you need for your art business. So your artist statement, your bio, your about page, any stories that go along with your art. It also contains your visual branding. So it's about helping you to be more magnetic by the way you're presenting yourself to the world, including the use of words. And Magnetic You is one of the 4 courses in the Art Career Success System, which is at artcareersuccesssystem.com. And so they're very different. Cynthia and I both think you could do both of them and you would be miles ahead of most artists. Most artists don't have the bandwidth, especially if you have kids at home right now. You don't have the bandwidth to do both courses, but you might be in one place or another right now. And if the courses could help, they're there for you. Cynthia, we had a question, and since you are the queen of prompts, someone wants an example.
Hold on. Before you go there, I just want to add something to what we were saying.
Okay.
Forget. I feel like at the core of what we're talking about with a journaling practice, because the Magnetic You class is amazing. It's like, if you need to write anything for your art practice, here's how to do that. Here's how to have some structure around that and some guidance. The concept of a journaling practice is you're just getting familiar with writing and with yourself, of getting your words out. But when you go to write an artist statement, it's like, I have 50 words to describe this thing. And you get like, I've got to get the right 50 words.
Oh, yeah.
50 words, I've got to get them right. They've got to be accurate and communicative and magnetic. That is way too much pressure. A journaling practice is about generating a lot of words and putting it out there and getting a lot of words out there that you then can get the essence of. That is how I do it. That's how I teach it. I don't know anybody who can just sit down and just be like, I'm just going to,
no.
Oh, that seems so painful.
Yeah, to try to get the perfect sentence down. I tell artists to have enough words for 10 artist statements. Then we can start on it.
Yeah. So artists probably know, like, there's a lot of pre-work that goes into a painting, even just like the sketching and the sketchbook, and then
the research, the photos,
the layering of the painting even. So it's similar to that. You're not just going to like put up, an amazing painting. There's a process that goes into it beforehand.
Yeah. So do you want to give a couple writing prompts maybe to start people off? I actually have one, but I'll let you start. You want to pull one out of your deck?
A couple of my favorite ones for, like, when people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm stuck with writing. I don't know how to get started. I don't look at that. I want to start with love. I'm all about love. That's my life's purpose. And I believe that everything should be coming from a place of love. So looking at what do you love about art making? I love my medium because, or I love making art because, and then you're like, wow, it really makes me feel alive, or whatever you love about it. Another prompt that I often give for my writers is I write because, and that can get to the why that you write, the motivation, and it's very unique to you, and that will help you to know why you do it in the first place.
I paint because, or I take photographs because.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the cool thing about that prompt is you can do it over and over. I've done this prompt myself hundreds of times in the workshops I've led, and it might change, and you might get more depth, you might get more breadth. So those 2 prompts that help you get connected to yourself and your art making first, and then from there, usually what happens is, like, it's a very alive writing and very dynamic, and really energizes people and gives them a lot of clarity that then they might use for writing those other materials.
Or they might not, but they might not be able to write the other materials until they get that other stuff out. It's that's another part of the process that we'll go through. You can also start with an artist that you really admire. Like, you could say Agnes Martin, like just her name, and then start writing for 15 minutes. Yeah.
I love your collecting words idea, because I'm working on writing about my art right now, and it was hard. I'm like, oh. So I remembered you saying, just write some words, just gather some words. And I did that, and it was super fun, brought some insights and helped me to get going. So even if you're just going down to a basic level of just like putting some words on the page. It doesn't have to be a coherent narrative or even sentences, just even notes can be useful.
We call it, in Magnetic You, we call it 100 juicy words. And I have people come up with 100 juicy words. I know a lot of people don't like that word, but I do. 100 juicy
I
words
love it.
about their work. And so they have this dictionary, this thesaurus for their art, for their marketing. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the prompts, just anything. So here's my free prompt. This is for you, Cynthia. I keep thinking I need to tell you this. I woke up. You know how we're all having really weird dreams lately? Like last night, it was my dream sequence was like a circus. What happened in it? It was crazy what happened. But the other morning I woke up and all I could think of was I dreamed I had a chihuahua. And I did have a chihuahua in my dream, but I just kept saying I dreamed I had a chihuahua. And I'm like, that's a writing prompt.
That's totally a writing prompt.
Let me just say, for the record, I have 2 cats and I would not have a chihuahua, although they're lovely animals. But it was just it's just kind of randomly weird. But I should use that as a prompt. So I don't know what else happened in the dream. You can get those anywhere. Okay.
Well, a fun thing about that prompt, and again, like in terms of prompts, they don't have to be serious. Like my prompts were very personal growth oriented, like I'm afraid to. So that helps me to get intimate with myself. A prompt like I dream I had a chihuahua is an imaginative, creative, fun prompt that might spark your imagination in ways that you didn't have before.
Right. So, all right. I think that to sum up what we're talking about, or have been talking about, and went a little longer than we had expected, we call this an imperfect journaling practice for artists. And we really just want to emphasize that we're giving you permission, that not that you need our permission, but to be completely, totally imperfect, messy. Yeah, you're just doing it for yourself. You're not writing. Like, do it for yourself before someone else asks for it.
Yeah, and so this, like, what happens if you get stuck and just don't feel like writing? I have this perspective that there's nothing wrong with you, that you, me, us, we are natural creatures, we're beings, and that there's nothing wrong with us. It's more looking at what are the circumstances that are required to do the writing. So I'm often like, well, what would make this fun? What would make this easy? What would make this me? And then you might find something completely different than even anything we've said, anything you've ever heard. And you do it and you're like, oh, this is my way. So please don't take any of this as a prescriptive that you have to do it this way. Try on anything that we might have said and adapt it for your own needs and preferences.
Yeah, excellent. And if you have the time, or if you feel like you need to make the time to deepen your writing practice, Cynthia's course that you can start now is called The Devoted Writer. You can find it at
originalimpulse.com, and I'm calling it the summer's best writing party. So, like, it's not all seriously. I've added a lot of lessons that bring fun. We did a collaborative poem the other day and everybody loved it. It's super dynamic and easy. And the simple point of it is to develop a writing practice that works for you for whatever you want to write.
That's awesome. And for the one thing I know about Cynthia is that she insists on fun and lightness in the summertime. That's her favorite season.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's got a garden to tend to, so it's not going to be too serious. And so if that sounds like, look at it, that the Devoted Writer, it's under workshops on originalimpulse.com. If you need an artist statement, a bio, branding, more business-like attention for your writing, please visit magneticuartist.com. It's part of the Art Career Success System. And that is on demand also. And you can be part of our community and get our support and member feedback in that community. And you can start that at any time. People are starting now. In fact, we have one class called the Arthas Accelerator. I'm telling people, don't even bother with that right now. You can't you can't find venues for your art right now, so don't go straight to Magnetic You. It's introspective, and that's so valuable right now.
It's a great time to do that. That's the kind of work like, oh, I need to get my writing materials in order. This could be a great time to do that when you're not out looking for galleries.
If you have the time, if you want to make the time, if you don't, if you aren't, so many people are burdened. I don't want to say burdened by children, but they're having to homeschool, and they have new burdens on their life that they didn't have before.
Well,
So if you
I don't know anybody who's just loafing around looking for something to do.
yeah.
One person, but everybody else is just, there's stuff going on. So a lot of the stuff that we see out there now is like for when you need to like organize your recipes and just so you know, like that may not be you, and that's okay. I almost did that the other day, and I'm like, I don't have time for this.
I had a friend, and now we're just getting silly. I had a friend that called me the other morning at like Wednesday morning at like 9:30 a.m., which is like my peak work time. It was like, I haven't talked to her in like 2 years, and she thought that was a good time to call because now she doesn't have to travel 3 weeks out of the month. It was like, I think she's one of those people that's organizing. She doesn't cook, but she's organizing something.
Yeah, she's on the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope this has been useful. Feel free to reach out to me either on Facebook or Instagram or at my website, originalimpulse.com. If anything I said was unclear or you have questions about it, I'm happy to talk about how to help you have a writing practice, a journaling practice that works for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cynthia. And thanks everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.